Plenty of seats. Good evening. Welcome. Tonight is an open seminar with John Morton. My name is Louis Tenaglia, and on behalf of MSIA Pennsylvania, I'd like to welcome all of you to this evening's event. We'd also like to welcome all the folks who are joining us via the internet. This is being streamed live over the internet, so welcome to all those folks as well. Just out of curiosity, how many of you this evening are here for the first time for an MSIA event? Raise your hands up. Wow. Welcome. Terrific. Well, for those of you that are new to MSIA, just to give you a little bit of background about the movement of spiritual inner awareness, the real purpose of MSIA is to teach soul awareness. And the beauty of MSIA is that there are so many practical tools that have been given to us through John Roger and John Morton about how to live a life anchored in the soul and to still remain in this world, functioning in the world, doing all the ordinary things that we do, but having a really clear focus inside of living from that place of the soul. There's plenty of information about MSIA on the web at msia.org, and we encourage you, if you're interested, to go to that website and find out more information. I've personally been involved with MSIA now for 33 years, and I can tell you that from my own experience, the tools and the information about working all of these ideas about practical spirituality have definitely had an impact on me and on my life, on all the imperfections of an ordinary life. All the things that I do that work and don't work for me in the world still keep me anchored in that place of the heart and the soul. And I really value that experience and those tools. We always begin any gathering in MSIA by doing something called calling in the light. It's a simple way for us to anchor our awareness in the light of God and with our soul. And it comes in the form of a very simple prayer. And then following that prayer, we do a group chant called Anihu, A-N-I-H-U. And we let that chant go on for a little bit. And it's a way through that chanting to come into a sense of group empathy and one accord. So I invite you, as we call in the light and chant Anihu, to join us. Some people like to close their eyes as we do this. Other people like to keep their eyes open. It doesn't matter how you do it. And you might just want to sit and listen and observe what's going on inside your heart as we do that. So I invite you now, as we call in the light and chant Anihu. So, Lord God of the universe, we ask just now for a blessing of light and sound, to come forward through each one of us into this room, anchored as a column of light here, so that any karma, negativity, or imbalance, any disturbance that's present with any of us, may be taken up into this light and blessed, returned back into the nothingness from which it came. We surrender ourselves to the light, and in so doing, we open ourselves to receive the grace and the blessings of Spirit. We're so grateful for all the blessings that come to us, regardless of how they may appear at the moment. Berush Beishan. And Berush Beishan simply means the blessings already are. Anihu. So we have someone with us this evening who's going to share a beautiful song. I'd like to introduce Michael Sloan.
You guys are an easy audience. Thank you. It's great to see everyone. My first MSIA live seminar was in 1974, and there was something about the experience of that to me at that time of my life that was like coming home. And the song that I want to sing has that essence to it because it has a line about coming home in it. And I was originally going to have a guitar recorded accompaniment. My friend Bob Goldman was going to record something. His mom passed away suddenly, so if you would just say a prayer for Bob Goldman and his family and his mom. So I'm going to do this a cappella, but I've done it before. It's one of my very favorite songs. This is a song that is called Into the Mystic, which is somewhat about where we are. So, we were born before the wind, also younger than the sun, ere the bonny boat was won, as we sailed into the mystic. Hark now, hear the sailors cry, smell the sea and feel the sky, and let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. Ooh, when that foghorn blows, you know I will be coming home. Ooh, and when that foghorn whistle blows, I want to hear it. I don't need to fear it, 'cause I'm gonna rock your gypsy soul, just like way back in the days of old. And together we will fold into the mystic. Ooh, when that foghorn blows, you know I will be coming home. Ooh, and when that foghorn whistle blows, I want to hear it. I don't need to fear it, 'cause I'm gonna rock your gypsy soul, just like way back in the days of old. And together we will fold into the mystic, yeah, into the mystic. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. MSIA has so many study materials that deal with so many issues of practical spirituality. Tonight you're going to see some video presentations of the newest materials that are available from MSIA, but there are also a number of study materials at the back table that if you're interested in looking at some books and other things, they're certainly available there, and we invite you to take a look at those. So enjoy this presentation of study materials. You'll also get to see the founder of MSIA, John Rogers. So if you're new to MSIA, you'll recognize that John Rogers is the founder of MSIA.
You can be born on the planet with one of three types of egos. And you can be born with what we call a small one, or low, or you can be born with a middle one, or medium. Just a smaller M for you people that's down there that haven't had your eyes fixed yet. And there's a big one, R large. These people are bastards most of the time. Now, you have to understand that egos are very, very powerful. They are non-reasoning. Then you have to say, listen, this is a mood I'm in. And in a sense, when we say, well, I feel moody, people sort of like, okay, go ahead. It's like saying, you wake up in the morning, you go, oh, God, I woke up with a headache this morning, and it sort of gave me a grouch. Then if they do something funny, you go, hey, it's okay. You're going to give them a lot of allowance for a headache and a lot of allowance for being a grouch. They do that 15 days in a row, and you're going to start adjusting their neck for them in the morning. You're going to get them out of bed and say, let's fix your neck real fast. Ego, as defined by me, is the sense of awareness of who I am at any given moment in time or space. Who I am. And who I am is how I feel about myself, not what I think. When it goes from the blue down here, the low, and it moves towards the high, that's when you get married. It's got to be kind of compatible. You have to be within a few percentiles of each other, or what you have is no meeting ground. Or the meeting ground are two ships that are passing in the dark. And you stop long enough to hop in bed, then you hop back out, and then the ships keep on parting. If you want to see one, you say, what would a graph look like of two people that are incompatible? One lives down here at this percentile, and the other lives over here at this percentile. How did they even get together? They have mood swings. And this is where they meet. And that little bit of meeting space, like 3 or 4% of 100% that they're going to meet, is really not a whole lot of things to build anything on. When I see people doing this, I just go, yeah, don't give them a real good wedding present.
I heard you say something in the beginning about going into that place. We know we're all things and we're into the power of who we are. And my question is, how can I more do that? Is there something blocking me from that? How can I step up?
Go home, have a nice shower, sit in a tub full of, what kind of soap do they want to have? Something that's slick and glistening. Then relax into it, because you're now in your own personal world. And you're going to refer to your ears and your shoulders and your head, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, all in this getting aware again that you are okay. And you can be okay as long as you want to be okay. Well, then you're thinking, how do I get around to do this if I have to get around and go thinking about it? Because if you don't, it'll just push you around. Because you're always on the area right now. You're always on the area right now. Remember the old saying that one of the great teachers talked about? Be still and know that I am God. What do I do then? Didn't you see her? I said, be quiet. But what do I have to do to be quiet? Stop talking and just listen for a little bit and see if you get the same answers or if you get new ones.
That's my heartbeat. So I'm still alive. What was the question?
Shall I repeat? Yeah, can you try to give your thought about trust?
There's one way to look at trust in the world, and that is to look at how are you trusting and who are you trusting back. It's important to know that. You can do it as a simple question in your mind and a simple question in your mouth. That you want things that are easy to swallow and are easy to digest and share with someone else. As soon as you're able to do this, a planetary issue appears, one of loving everyone as though you love yourself. That's a hard thing to do. As the spirit of love and light grow more and more in each one of us, it grows more and more in every one of us. We can walk out of here feeling really good that you're on the path and you were able to pick out your part that was good in the seminar, and just go ahead with it. Just go ahead with it. Just go ahead with it. Stop denying yourself. Start loving your heart. If you don't know where that is, it's right here in the middle. Now the physical heart's on the left side. This heart I'm talking about is the spiritual heart. It sits right at the sternum. We know that there's beautiful people out here and in here. We know that we all make mistakes. So one of the first things you got to do is forgive yourself for judging any mistakes. Because maybe for somebody else, it's not a mistake. It was on purpose for a purpose. And then we learn to give it open to the spiritual heart. And the spirit of truth comes into each one of us. It can't come into just one. It's got to have a master and at least a student, so that the information can be shared without consciousness of retribution. But that last part there was right out of the Spirit telling me what to say, so I said it just exactly like I was told to do. This is the hardest part of doing any MSIA work, is that you've got to be able to open up to let your loving light be the giving of service. That way you can see what you're doing and to make self-corrections. So now we learn to smile. We learn to love every day, each moment we're alive.
While they're setting up the stage, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce John Morton. I've known John Morton for 33 years, as long as I've been in MSIA. And for me, John Morton is such an example of integrity and kindness. He's been a powerful teacher for me in my life. When there are times in my life when I was in need of forgiveness, it came to me through John Morton. When I was in need of clarity, it was available to me through him. When I was in need of unconditional loving, it came as grace to me through him. John Morton has taught me how to love myself. No matter what I do, what I say, how I think, or how I feel, he's taught me to always come back to that place of loving myself. And my gratitude to him personally for who he is and the work that he does through MSIA is so deep in my heart. It's with a full and loving heart that I ask you to join me tonight in inviting our beloved John Morton to come and share his light as the traveler with us tonight. John.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. It's a little precarious up here. So welcome, especially anybody who is new, which is always fun for me because then I get to make things up. Let's see if you're following along. There's a line here. It's like I'm in a cage. And the other thought I had was, I don't even know if they still have this, but in Disneyland they did an exhibit that was about Abraham Lincoln. Did anybody go to that before? And then I think there was a curtain like this one. And a chair. and at some point, Abraham Lincoln in his likeness spoke to us. And at the time, I think I was probably all of about 10 or something like that. And it wasn't so meaningful, like, let's get on the Matterhorn or something. That was more meaningful to me at the time. But since, Abraham's given us quite a ride. So, oh yeah, hello to whoever's on with us tonight. This is something that's a recent addition to our repertoire. And Ezra's laughing because they're saying, can we see Ezra's head again, please? Because when we were in Mexico City not too long ago, I asked Ezra to do a pan with the camera, so that would be like going around to see who's here. And you've probably been rehearsing this all day long, right? Because there was something about that panning effect that it threw Ezra for a kind of a loop. And what was included was a kind of a very up-close view of the top of his head. Somehow I didn't quite know how to get out of the frame. So that'll probably be something that people will go, oh, was that the seminar when we saw Ezra's head? It's like, yeah, that was it. It's like, oh, okay. Now I know what you're talking about. But also when it's an open seminar, one of the things I look at is that it's really open. So it's open into what we come here to do. And I like to remind us about it, and in some ways it helps remind me too, so that I come into a kind of an attunement with the Spirit, and I invite you in your way to come into an attunement with the Spirit. And maybe you're saying, well, I'm already in attunement with the Spirit, so I don't need to move. I'm there, or I'm here. That's, I'm sure, more accurate to say you're here, because it's a presence. And so I invite you to do the presence. And when I say the presence, it's like the presence, the presence that's in all things. We endeavor upon the Spirit and spiritual awareness, so that's in our name. It's spiritual awareness, and then there's some terms that go before that. But we endeavor upon it, and not partially, but completely, wholly in what that is. And to me, that's the domain of Spirit. So I don't control that, but I like to participate in it. And then I look upon us as we're gathered here in a purpose to gather in and of the Spirit. I'm reminded of a group called, well, I'm not an expert, but the Friends, and I know that we've done ministers' gatherings in a friend's house or whatever it's called, but I think we're more familiar with it as the Quakers or something like that. But in those gatherings, there is often a purpose to hold, to be quiet, to not express until the Spirit moves someone. And the idea is that if the spirit doesn't move, then we don't move, then we're silent. Also, which is a form of worship, to come into a quiet. When we do spiritual exercise, that's one of our moves, is to come into a quiet as much as we can, to quiet the mind, maybe also find a quiet place. So in some ways, we're in a quiet place tonight. We can be thankful that we're in a place that has a harbor, and I look at that as a safe harbor, a place where we're in safety, we're in protection, and we invoke that. So when we call ourselves forward in light, that there's a light of protection. And well, what do you mean by that? Well, it's an energy that has power in it that can protect. Well, what would it protect? Well, it would protect us. And why would it do that? Because it takes us personally. And what I mean by that we have a spirit that relates to us directly and personally. So I look at the whole spirit, or the Holy Spirit, as something that is on a personal basis, is on a friendly basis, and friendly toward all, and personal toward all, so that it would welcome all in a particular way. If you come here in peace, if you come in here with love in your intent of caring, and maybe you come here hoping to receive in some way. Is there anybody here hoping to receive tonight? Okay. Hey, this would be a good time to do a pan, Ezra. Are you ready? Okay, so here we go. So once again, if you would like to receive, and then we're going to put the eye of the Holy Spirit upon you. There you go. Here's all these folks who would love to receive. And of course, wherever you're, yes. Well done, well done. Last time we had the opportunity that there was a large screen, I think, which has been covered by Abraham Lincoln's curtains here. So we were able to watch it live in the room, what people on the internet were watching too. So we all in the room got an opportunity to see Ezra's head. But I'm also letting you know that if you're at home or wherever you are, maybe you're on a ship somewhere, because you can get internet in a way wherever you are. More and more that's the ability that we have in our technology, that your participation would be, even if you consider yourself alone, that you could still raise your hand, that I would hope I'm going to receive tonight. And that's something that we all have a responsibility to do, to respond to what you want. And in some ways, that's also the other side of that coin, is respond to what you don't want. And I bet if we took a survey, here's an interesting question, so says I. If you knew in your life that we could measure, and it would either come up, you have received what you want, or you have received what you don't want, and we measured that like on a scale of 1 to 100, like 100 would be max, and something like 1 or 0 would be the minimum, then where would your survey go about how much have you received what you want and how much have you received what you don't want? And just be aware of that. Where would you put that needle, or whatever the measurement is? So let me do it this way. How many of you would say you've received more of what you want than what you did not want? Okay, that's most of you. I'll spare the panning, but that's certainly most of you. So how many of you would say you've received mostly what you did not want? Anybody in that category? Okay, less. And then maybe there's some of you that didn't put your hand up. And that's okay. This is not a forced march. But I encourage you to to be aware of the questions in your life, what questions you. And another side of that coin is a quest, or sometimes we look at it as a search, that we're in a search. There's something we want that we're looking for. Anybody have that going on in some way? You're in a search, you're in a quest. Again, most of the hands. And let's just consider that what is true about all of us, that we do have the potential, and I would even say it this way, we have the destiny. It's going to happen, it will happen, that you will come to a place that you have received all that you want. Now, I hear this. It's like the voice come from wherever it's coming from, and be careful what you ask for, and be careful what you want and what you place your intention and your desire on, and to be conscious that you have creatorship. Now, to what degree? I'm sure we could discuss that at length. But let's just consider that it's substantial, that it makes a difference. It does matter how you relate to your life, how you focus, what you set up as your quest, your intention, what you want, and what draws your attention. So let me talk to you initiates. So I'm going to write that one down. Just so one of the key words in the movement of spiritual inner awareness. I'm going to write it this way. Initiate. I'm sure if we looked inside this book, we could find that word. Do you understand that? And it would be spelled I-N-I-T-I-A-T-E. And sometimes I do look it up, but I'm going to spare myself, maybe you too, doing that. And we do initiate. So we start something. Does that make sense? That if we're initiating something, we're beginning, we're commencing as a process that previously we could say we haven't begun or we haven't started. So it requires energy, it requires momentum. There's a word I'm saying there's a word in my universe. Maybe somebody can suggest it, because we got group mind, universal mind here. It's something like entropy. So this is where I go daft or something like that. And which happens, and you know, when I get into this consciousness, the way I'm into this consciousness right now, it's a space like it's very close to that inertia. And then there's I'm going to put later at some point, maybe this one's just for me. I'm going to write it in a different color than that. Oh, look. It could be black pen, it could be yellow pen. I just discovered that. Okay. I'll put a little asterisk. And I think it's spelled like that. Is that a word we find in the English dictionary? Okay. So I'm just saying, well, later, and then we had inertia. So I'm going to go ahead and write that one down. Okay, bonus. We'll write down momentum as well. So one of the things we're doing in MSIA that's key is initiation. So I just took another form of the word. And so we would look at initiate as initiation becomes the ongoing action. So then it becomes something that becomes a pattern or a story of your life. You know, or when they're doing your eulogy, they talk about it, your initiation. What? Well, maybe. Who knows? If you're there with your fellow initiates or your traveler, just might happen. Well, that's public. I like that to be private. Well, this is public and this is private, and this is going out so that whoever's monitoring our world now, and And you do know we're all being monitored. I mean, that shouldn't be a secret at this point. There are eyes and ears in the sky. Eye in the sky, you've heard of that, right? And it's usually got a propeller on it, and then there's another kind of eye in the sky that's just sort of revolving, or it's on its orbit. And then they're putting out more of those, like every day. So one of the things that's going on is there's tremendous monitoring, listening, watching of our world taking place, such that somebody's listening and watching right now. And it's like, well, what if that is a person whose job it is to monitor and listen? Fine. Come right in. There's no real secrets here. It's an open seminar. We even invited you. And well, how does that work? And it's like, it works very well because I've heard JR say it this way. JR is another name for John Roger. So in our friendly, familiar self, we call him JR. So you can call him that way yourself, especially if you consider yourself familiar with who he is. Because sometimes what happens if you come in and you're here for the first time and you're just meeting John Roger in the form of a video or hearing his voice or seeing what he looks like, you can have the experience, you can have the transmission, you can have the initiation. Something's initiated because you have the contact. And let's see, what is it of the third kind, fourth kind? What is that? Close encounters, thank you. That we do close encounters. And that's not a secret either. Like, what do you mean by that? They say they do close encounters. What is that? Well, we do that with our soul. So we have an intention. That's another word that's good to write up. So I'm going to write it. And these two are closely related, intention and initiate. So as we come into the awareness of our intention, and let's say that at some point we would realize that there's an encounter that we're looking for, that we're in a quest and a search for, how long? If I said that there's something of that order that's been here all of your life, and if you really looked at it, you'd say, well, I think when I was born, I had that intention, I had that desire, I had this quest, this search that my life was upon, that I needed to in some way have that encounter, have that experience in order for myself to be fulfilled and complete. And then I referred to this earlier, like, well, what if you could have all that you want so that that goes away? Now, some people would think that's boring. Because if I get all I want and I'm satisfied, then I don't have it. There's no dynamic here. I don't care anymore. Who says? Maybe your caring explodes when you get what you want. And up to that point, it's been withheld and suppressed. Did anybody ever have an encounter in your life where something happened such that you suppressed or oppressed your caring? My feelings were hurt. Why did you do that? Well, if I didn't ask that question, I certainly felt like asking that question. And then when that repeats itself, so that things happen in our life that we don't like or that we don't expect, and then the response is that we withhold that and take that in and suppress our natural way of being until we meet up with someone or something that would allow us to be completely open, be ourselves completely, so that we don't have to consider, are you going to use this against me? Are you going to hurt me later? Are you going to set me up, manipulate me, so that if I let go and trust you and give you what you want, that's just a setup for being hurt or taken from or something like that. Anybody ever have that kind of thinking going? All right, there's a few of those, or a lot of those actually. That's okay, because I think, when I'm at my worst, that's how I think. But then at that point I realize it's probably better right now if I don't think. You ever had a moment like that? But try to stop yourself from thinking when you're really in one of those hard-pressed moments. It's like, it's all I can think of. And when I get a hold of them, my horn's going to gore them, said the bull. Why? Because they showed me red, and that really got me disturbed, so I wanted to gore them. And sometimes it can get on that order, like you don't even know what's happening and you're attacking. Any of you ever had an experience like that? Like, I don't even know what you did to upset me, but I'm on fire, or the flames are coming, and then what did you say? Because sometimes these things work at an unconscious level, more like all the time. But let's just say we can also be consciously aware of it. So even as it's working at an unconscious level, we can be conscious of how that's working. And what I'm saying is that we're all designed as souls to come into the full awareness of who we are as a soul. And because of that, there's a movement. And it's a movement from the greater opportunity to be conscious and aware and functioning as a soul. And so that we have established a movement for that purpose. And John Roger has, in my view, volunteered. That's how I look at it. And if you delve into his story, you'll hear that wasn't like 100% right away. Oh, yes, of course, I'll do that. That there was reluctance, there was hesitation, there was something on the order of, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in this position. I don't want to be the one who's responsible to share this. Why can't it just be my own personal experience? Why do I need to be in a position that I'm sharing this? And I don't want to go too far where I'm in some ways trying to speak for John Roger, because he speaks beautifully, magnificently for himself, and we have wonderful technology that's recorded that and made that available in thousands of hours. So you can watch, you can listen, you can read. And my humble point of view is that we have the finest teaching on the planet for what we're here to do as souls. Now, if you said, do we have the finest teacher or teachings here on the planet if you want to become the best golfer in the world? I'd like it to be that way, personally, but no. Let me just be direct. If you want to learn how to master golf, this is not the place. There are other places for that. And in the mix here, that we find out that even as important as it is to wake up and be conscious in our soul, that's a primary directive that comes from on high as God's intention for all the souls. Along the lines of, you will wake up, soul. You will. And perhaps that sounds rather forceful, and I do consider that it is. It's God's will that it's done, but God's range of movement is limitless. So with God, all things are possible. That's something that's been said. And then I just look at that we're in a place that's highly convergent with this purpose when we get onto it. And until that point, then it's highly convergent with whatever else we're looking for, whatever other entropy, inertia, momentum that we have. Has anybody ever had a collision with something? Okay. and something broke. Maybe the windshield broke, or the bumper, or maybe the leg broke, or the face broke, or, I mean, you get the idea. Like, we're talking about a powerful collision, and something powerful occurred that wasn't necessarily what we had planned for that day, but it was indeed a convergence and a collision that had a purposefulness in it, not necessarily to our liking in the moment, but let's just consider that all things have a purpose under heaven. And hey, that sounds scriptural. Or wasn't that in the Birds song? Turn, 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 yes. And it was, but the lyrics come from Scripture. For every purpose there is a season under heaven. And so even the negative form, the destructive, disturbing, catastrophic forms have purpose under heaven, meaning they have heavenly, and let's consider that we could define that in a way where it would be good. That the heavenly purpose is good and it's favorable. So the purpose of all these things, the purpose of this world is good. Well, that sounds scriptural too, because didn't something like that get stated in Genesis and on the first day and the second day, and then somebody saying it's good. Like whoever had that authority to declare the creation good, that's what they were declaring. And then there was a day of rest. And what does that mean? I consider it's a rhythm, like a cycle, that it has to do with, we work, and then there comes a point where we need to absorb, we need to replenish, we need to take it in, process what it is. Maybe we need to heal, recover. Anybody here in recovery? There's a loaded term. Rehabilitation, and it's like rehab, there it is. It changes names. Like, remember there were janitors once upon a time? Now they're called by other names. Like you probably, if you work for places, they don't call it a janitor because somehow that term became something, you can't use that term. It's not respectful or honorable or something like that. But whatever it is, let's consider that we're all in rehabilitation. We're all in correction. Anybody work in a correction facility? I actually got offered a job in a correction facility, but I didn't take it. Now you see I have to correct myself. And it's good because I love correction because that's a willingness to learn. And that's a primary directive in this world, is you will learn. Like God's will, so your life will make you. And then I remember JR talking about it, and like you can do it laughing and dancing, or you could do it screaming and yelling and having a fit, but you will learn. And so how do you want to do the learning? Do you want to do it as a process that you enjoy? And that's something you could set up as intention, momentum, inertia, that then becomes something that you're using everything for your upliftment, learning, and growth. Anybody heard that before? I think all of us, more or less, because I just said it and then I asked you if you'd heard it before. See, if you're paying attention, it's like, oh, you're getting at that line of closeness. Like, and because you said it, then I've heard it before, so that would be what's really true, and it would be. So like if you knew I had $1 in my hand, would you take it? Anybody? Watch how this works. Would you pass this along to that young lady there? So did she have foresight? Maybe. So, and then, well, you prompted her or you looked at her. You could have said, over here. And that would have prompted me. So that's how these things work. Pay attention, that there's a very important responsibility on this level to know what you're here for and to consider consciously in every moment, how are you applying yourself, and to consider that the primary directive is that you become a soul who's aware and functioning as a soul. And when I was listening to J.R. earlier, he was talking about egos. Egos don't have rationale, or what was it? They're non-reasoning. There we go. See, I already interpreted it. But it's close enough. And so we could be functioning in this thing we call an ego, and that's just what happens when we get into forms of thinking and forms of behaving and forms of pattern. Then that can become habitual. Anybody familiar with what I'm talking about? See, and it's important that you go conscious in some of these things. So it's like, oh no, I already got that. I already know what I need to know about that. So I'm not paying attention. Just because the words and the information is familiar, or there's some part of us that thinks I already know that. But if you were really functioning in your soul, you'd be joyful, peaceful, and powerful in the most positive way continuously. So how many can pass that test 100%? It's like, I want to put my hand up, and claim it. So go ahead and claim it. And that was an invitation. Maybe you'd prime direct, like, I'm going ahead to claim it, like, because my soul just stood up right now. Said, I'm going to claim that I can do that. I can do that happy, that powerfully uplifting, peaceful, joyful, caring. I can do that continuously. And we have this ground rule because it's already there, and that is the ability to use everything for upliftment. So what it is really a reminder that you can do this. You're designed to use everything as a soul. But in an ego formation, anybody here ever thrown a tantrum? Do I have to admit that here? Well, I didn't say when. I mean, just because it happened today. That's just more or less coincidental. But if you get angry and upset, and that's what's on purpose now in your expression, often that creates something in and of itself. And now, are you happy about that? Are you peaceful? Is it uplifting? And so when you're in your awareness that I'm off, I'm doing something that in my spiritual nature I don't want to do, there's an opportunity there. What's it called? Choice? Yes. Now what's that choice become an action? What would we call that? If you're doing something that's in error, you know consciously it's off. What can you possibly do? Course correct, change. Would that include stop? Yeah, stop what you're doing and consider, maybe that's the first move. Like, take it out of gear. Well, I have to put in the clutch. It's like, okay, put in the clutch and take it out of gear. Because if you've driven cars like I have, there's some cars, if you don't put the clutch in, you can't get it out of gear. I think International Harvester had something like that. Yeah, I drove International Harvester. Because I was, I think when I worked for the Department of Fish and Game, because some people are curious, well, tell me about yourself. Yeah, I used to work for Fish and Game. And then they had various four-wheel drive vehicles. So stop, and then consider what are you going to do instead? And if you don't give yourself that assignment, like, what am I going to initiate? What is my intention? Then often, have you ever noticed the pattern will re-enter? It's almost as though it's on automatic. And those of you who deal with something called addiction, see my hands up. Because I'm just going to go ahead and claim it. And even if it's yours I'm dealing with, I'm going to claim it. Well, why would you do that? Because in my caring, it's larger than myself. Like, I feel your pain. Something like that. Well, I do. And so then my response in my heart is, I care. Do I care too much sometimes? What is that like? It doesn't work. It's dysfunctional to try to do your life for you. I don't have that assignment, but nobody really has that assignment. Responsibility for somebody else. You have responsibility for yourself, and that can be shared so that we have a mutual responsibility as a family. Anybody here been in a family before? Well, even if they assigned you a family, which sometimes happens, it still works, it still functions, that you have a father figure, you have a mother figure, and it doesn't even have to be like, could the father figure be in a female body? Sure. What does that mean? Well, they just take on some of the masculine, I'm going to call them tendencies, and we can do the other roles so that a man could take on the feminine tendencies, and that we all have this mix in how we have opportunities. When we have an opportunity to care, but we need to care in such a way as it works, so it doesn't become we care too much. And then now we're in the thick of it, or something like that, where we get stuck, we get caught. And so if somebody in our family is upset, we're upset. And one's enough. You ever notice that? When there's disturbance, one person being disturbed, that's plenty. That's more than enough. Like, well, let's both be upset, or let's all be upset. You know, that's kind of a mess of some kind. It's like, could somebody take charge about what are we going to do that would be uplifting, correcting, and perhaps we'll take an opportunity to hold, to just be in a place of we're not really doing anything at the moment while we catch our breath from the shock. Have you ever noticed that when we're in shock, the breathing goes different? It can be very different. So that it can be either something on the order of panting or hyperventilating, or it could be no breath at all, like breathe, or you need to be shocked back into, you're here, you're in your body, come back. And the more we can understand that this world sets us up continuously for learning and growth, that it's designed perfectly that way, and that we have a very intelligent creator in our midst, but the way it works is it withdraws its domination. Like if we have an omnipotent creator, if it was in the room in all of its omnipotence, what's left for us to do? Hopefully that makes some sense. That if it goes into the invisible, if it goes into the silent, if it goes into, well, I'm not aware of the omnipotence of my creator, I guess I need to help myself or do something for myself. Well, yes, exactly. So consider that withdrawal, so that our spiritual awareness in some ways is withdrawn. It's in a place where we need to go to it. We need to seek it out. That's scripture too. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. Sometimes it's God, depending on who's translating. then all things are added. But remember, all things. So it's like, could we have a filter on some of the things that are being added? Well, that's up to you to be aware of your initiation and your intention and what do you want to create, promote, or allow. Anybody in insight? Well, we don't call them graduates, but I still call them graduates, yeah. Some of you have taken insight, and you remember there was a lecture about we create everything, we promote everything, we allow everything that happens into our life, that we have a full accountability and responsibility, that's the way to go. So if you want it to be different, then you need to take charge and do it differently, or at the very least, focus it differently so that you're aware of what you want and you have patience and you have discipline that will hold while it appears. And there's another mark of our spiritual nature. It has infinite patience. Do you have infinite patience? For some of you, that's amusing. Like, are you kidding? I specialize in impatience. I can show you all kinds of impatience. All right. But do you still have infinite patience? And see, this is good to raise your hand and go, okay, I'm going to claim that. I'm going to claim I've got infinite patience even when I don't choose it. I've got it. And just consider that in the rhythm of your life. So this is personal. So I'm talking to each and every one of you. The rhythm of your life, that it has purposefulness at all times in every condition. Do you act like it? And if you do, there's no resistance. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not sure I'm going along with that. You know, resistance is good. Depends on how you do it. You know, if you're doing it as a way to put something in place, so there's a resistance, but your strength puts something in place, like it overpowers the condition, and you put the stone in place, and then you put another stone in place, and after all, we're all standing back admiring what a beautiful wall you made. That's a beautiful wall. And how did it happen? By putting one stone in place at a time. And how we do that often depends on, or creates what kind of wall it is. Is it a strong wall, a formidable wall? Or is it something that the least little touch takes it down? I think that was the three pigs and the wolf or something like that. Like, what'd you build your house out of? And that depends on how the strength and what kind of house do we want to build. We want to build a house that's on solid ground. And that takes patience at times. To understand that when we let go, in order to let God, we're called upon to bring forward our patience. And what if that was all the patience you have? Would you hold that back like, yeah, I'm not only going to give you 9/10 of my patience, and I'm not going to don't come here for any more. That's it. I gave you my patience. I'm done with you. That sounds familiar for somebody here. Or would you go the distance? Like the field of dreams? That's part of it. Go the distance. It's like, well, what does that mean? Well, if you dream it, if you visualize, it will come, he will come. Whatever it is you're seeking will come. So seek first the kingdom. Well, what is that? It's the goodness, complete goodness. Seek it. And that it's yours to behold. Let's see, how long have we been going here? Because I probably got a timekeeper somewhere over here. You have to add it up. What time did I start? 7:50, okay. All right. Because sometimes we have a thing where we come right onto the second, where we do a Beirish Beishan. And after a while you develop an ear for it so that you can tell Jared's about to say Beirish Beishan. Because it starts taking on an energy and a tone. And it used to be depending on the cable station, because we used to do this and they would have requirements of how much time we were allotted. And then we had to come into that. And then the request was, well, could you deliver the seminar in such a way as we don't have to do some crude, awkward editing to get it into the time frame? So that became a spiritual assignment. And that was one of the ways I have been in awe of what the Spirit can do. I did an Insight 1, and an Insight 1 is 5 days, and I did it in a high school, facilitating. And in the high school included first period, second period, third period, lunch period, fourth period, fifth period, sixth period, all with bells. So I did all the exercises such that it conformed into the periods and the bells. Now, I'd like to think I have that ability. But I kept just having the intention, like, let's get through this first period, this first exercise. And then when it would happen, my sense was, oh, you were lucky. I mean, that was just pure luck. But it kept happening. And, we did a thing, I call it a beauty pageant, and we did, some people call it the hug line, you remember that? All this came into how it was working in the timing of the school. And so that was another part of it. And we were in a special school, and this school was like the last straw. And basically the way I interpret it is, well, the students that are here have not worked out in probably something like 2 other schools. And it was a big enough district in Oakland, California. So they had a school like, this is it. If you don't work out here, you're out. We don't have another school for you other than maybe the penitentiary or the local correction facility. But the way you're playing it, you're probably going to go there anyway. Or you've already been there, you're just on timeout until you go back the next time. And we had quite a few of those that had a lot of trouble with the law or trouble at home. And there was one particular girl that, let's see if I can describe her. It was something like if a woman could be your epitome of a biker. I mean a biker, not a biker chick. I mean a biker. That she came in like that. And then I started thinking about the inner beauty pageant and a few of the things we were doing. And I'm going, okay, this is going to be interesting. Because if somehow she can take what we're doing here, then I know what we're doing is on the order of miraculous. Well, so you got the picture of what she was dressed like, on the first day and the second day and the third day. Well, when it came to doing what was done and conducted kind of like a graduation ceremony, and when we do this, we tell the people that are the participants, you can invite your friends, family, whoever you're like. And then we do it as a ceremony, a celebration of what we've just completed in 5 days. So she came in, and I don't know how she did it, but she came in and she was wearing a chiffon, like white or pink dress. Her hair was done up and pulled back, so I saw, parts of her I had never seen and things like that. And it's like, And she was, an innocent young lady who walked in the room. And I saw that, and I look at what we do in our work. And this is a work that John Roger founded, Insight Seminars, and now has become Insight University. And it's powerful work. It's the work of the heart. It's the work of the soul. That when we come into that initiation and we start choosing back into what this is, tremendous things take place that are beyond the ego. Like the ego gets to go along for the ride. So I would say Insight is one of the best parties around. So if you were just looking for a party, it starts out a little strange, but when we get through what we do to set up for really celebrating and having a great time, it delivers over and over. And what we're doing delivers, but it's not something that we conduct as a forced march. So in reality, when we were doing this in the school, other than the requirements of what the school had, like you were in session or in class, what we told the participants is, it's not a forced choice. You don't have to do these exercises. And for a while, some of them, like in large numbers from other experiences working with teens, were not doing the exercise. They were choosing to pass and then having like side conversations, mocking and putting it down and finding fault, those kinds of conversations. But something started happening, which when one person opens up in their heart and talks and speaks and shares from that place, it takes on the magnificence of the soul, so that the person is lit up. And the way we look at that is it's natural. Like, this is who you are. You're always lit up. It's just that you can suppress it. You can hold it back. You can find reasons why you don't share your light, or you don't let other people see it. And there's a reminder, don't keep your light under a bushel. And there's something behind that, which I like to talk about, because in the customs of the time, when a guest came in to the home, and I'm being rather humble, it could just be some kind of roof or a tent. But still, if a guest came in, then the custom was to share, and to share generously, so that you would treat somebody as an honored guest in our home and in our abode. And then part of that would be that you would light the oil, like the oil lamp, and burn the precious oil. Well, there were those who didn't want to burn all of the oil, so then they would put the lamp under a bushel, so it was covered. And our friend Jesus saw into that, like that some people hide the lamp under a bushel because they know that when you honor the guest, you light all the lamps as an honoring that there's somebody who God has sent into your home. And just consider that the next time you meet up with somebody you don't like, or you have conflict with, that you're amongst somebody who is sent by God in your favor, at the very least, to teach you what you need to learn. And maybe that's humbling right now. And if you've ever treated somebody in a way that you regret, that you'd like to take back, and whatever you've done to resolve that, to clear that, we'll take a moment here. That what we have is a presence that forgives, and forgives all. And that you can issue that right now as what you initiate, that you initiate forgiveness. And if we're going to do this in the way that God is doing it, and so we're going to claim the full power of what that is, then it's forgiveness of all. and to be willing to hold that as a consciousness. And if your consciousness brings to you an image, to consider that whoever's image that is, it's an image of God, that we are made in the image of God. And so the face may be something that you don't like because of the way you are looking at the face. And to have your own personal transformation right in this moment. And consider that we all came here tonight to make peace, to come into peace. And that there is a presence here that has peacefulness for everyone and everything on the earth. And that we want that in our midst. And if we could send it out so that it's everywhere on the planet, if we could take a moment to hold for that consciousness of peace, that I come in peace, and peace toward all, that we can be that one who is the lamp for that, that we are ignited in what that is. So maybe you're having what I'm having as a kind of a vision right now, where I see this place is lit up, but also that wherever people are listening or watching, and whatever we can bring to mind, whoever we can bring to mind, that we can send this light that illuminates in a presence, a quiet flame. And its purpose, its meaning is that we are amongst our friends, that this is a gathering of friends, and this planet is a gathering of friends, that when we take the veneers off, when we take the hurts, the disappointments, the misunderstandings, when we take away what has been disturbing and upsetting, painful, when we take it away, when we peel it off, that there is this light that is the true nature of who we are. And that when we hold it up, that there's a light that shines back. So that when we put light between us, we can see the spark. We can see something shimmering, radiating, that is reflecting to us that whoever this is, whatever they've done, they have the presence of the Holy One in them. And that the Christ in me sees the Christ in you. Beirish Beishan. Maybe you're having a little bit of Christ Mass here. I'm not afraid of that word, because I know sometimes that's a word that disturbs people because of where you come from in your upbringing or downbringing or whatever it's been. But it really means the anointing, and the anointing of what is true amongst all of us, what is precious and holy amongst all of us. And that to me is the real meaning of it. It was spoken of as the Messiah. It was spoken of in many ways as the promised one, as the beloved. So this runs across many cultures. And that there's something that we've all been looking for on this planet. And that our history tells us there's been much darkness and disturbance in this place, but also that there's been something uniting us and reminding us that we're all here for the purpose of good. And it only really takes one of us to hold that up in the full power of what it is. But let's consider that we're in a moment, an everlasting moment. where all who want to choose to be anointed, all who want to be initiated into your spiritual fulfillment, that it is at hand. It is with you. The kingdom is here, waiting for you to reach and take hold. God bless you. Wherever you are, and thank you for allowing me to share my heart with you. Good night.
Thank you. We'd like you to take your seats for just a minute and allow John Morton some space for himself. We ask that you not approach him or touch him right now as he just clears the energy that he's been working with tonight. Once again, I'd like to remind you that there are products at the back table that you're welcome to go and take a look at and purchase if you like. And please check out MSIA.org for more information about the movement of spiritual inner awareness. It's been a pleasure having you here this evening. Thank you all for coming. Good night.
I love to walk along these mountain paths, find a way to reach the sea. I remember how you used to laugh as we go running and dancing in the breeze. What was it ever made me leave? I can see you standing by the ocean shore, looking deep beneath the waves. All the world was passing at your feet, and its reflection was captured in your face. For just a moment of your grace, and you could always be found entertaining angels that had fallen to the ground. But what is lost will come around again in time.